And we are back for another episode of the Real Lil Show. It's going down, just so y'all haters know. Okay, it's going down. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel as we are pushing out new content on a regular basis. And, we're going to amp that up. It's only going to get amplified with the NFL season back up and running, training camps or live. But there's things that's going on in the world and in sports that we like to cover here on this show. And we hold no punches, okay? We are not Shakur Stevenson, okay? We let our hands go with all due respect, okay? We let our takes go as well. So to my guy Shakur, right? Ain't nothing wrong with a little jokey joke, but for real, we let our hands go here on this show, and that's what we do. We hold no punches. All right, make sure you like and subscribe once more. And Lee, before I even introduce and acknowledge you, Lee, I have to acknowledge the tribal chief here on this show, all right? Roman still reigns, okay? Acknowledge the tribal chief here before we do anything here on this show. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I know about Lee. Lee got his hand down, but I'm going to acknowledge the tribal chief here. And then I'm going to pass it over to my guy Lee, who's here to talk about what's going on in the world with Anthony Fauci, and as it pertains to Kyrie Irving. We're going to break it down here. Lee, how you feeling, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I was a little bummed, man, because they took the strap off of Trick Williams. I didn't like that. I didn't like the strap coming off of Trick, man. That was kind of bogus to me. So, but it was an excellent Seth Rollins Roman Reigns match. Shout out to Roman Reigns. But hey, man, going well. Looking forward to this topic, and let's do it.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of this topic, I want to talk about Anthony Fauci. And this is a very passionate topic for me. I told myself that I'm gonna, take a calm approach to this topic. I'm gonna stay from getting radicalized here. I'm still gonna speak my piece, but I do realize that we are living in a world where you just gotta have dialogue, right? You can't, you just gotta be patient with people when it comes to your perspective, because guess what? Everybody doesn't see things the way how you may see it, and that's where we get more out of learning and dialoguing than we do going at our necks. And Anthony Fauci pleaded the fifth 111 times. Okay, at a Senate hearing. And Lee, right off the gate, I want to play a clip from Anthony Fauci. And I'm just going to call him Anthony Fauci, just a heads up. I'm not going to say anything other than Anthony Fauci. We're going to acknowledge him here as Anthony Fauci. And there's a reason for that. But I'm going to play a clip here from Anthony Fauci. And I want to run that, and then we'll pick it up from there. So let's run that clip right now as we are pulling it up right now. Even though social media want to act up. Oh, here we go. I know exactly what I did wrongly. Excuse me. All right. I'm too amped up for this topic. All right. We're going to calm it down. And now we are going to hear from Mr. Anthony Fauci himself.
A punching bag. I'm a punching bag, but I am very happy to testify before any congressional oversight committee. I have nothing to hide. I can explain and validate everything that I've done. So, it's going to be inconvenient if they actually are out there essentially threatening to make my life miserable. But I'm going to do what I need to do, and that is cooperate fully, because we have nothing to hide at all.
And that was Anthony Fauci saying that he had nothing to hide. And if you watch the clips on social media, if you watch the hearing, it was nothing but plead the fifth. So now what I want to do, Lee, before I get your perspectives on this, and then obviously for the subtopic, I want to dive into the sports angle of this as it pertains to Kyrie Irving, and if the NBA deserves to give him, or does he deserve to get an apology from the NBA. I want to start off by putting some notes out there. So during the pandemic, Fauci became one of the more recognizable U.S. government officials, speaking with reporters in the White House briefing room, and he appeared on numerous TV interviews, obviously during the pandemic. Now, in his diary, Fauci noted that those appearances on a daily basis made him a star, right? He acknowledged, all the news articles that was written about him, and he was very flattered about that, obviously. And then he mentioned the current president, Trump, on his campaign trail, and said that he was spewing nonsense, right? He was really out of control. Fauci wrote in October 2020 in his diary. And then he's a true embarrassment. And basically, to quote him, he said that Trump had no interest at all in the COVID-19 pandemic. And that was embarrassing. Now, Lee, I want to get your perspectives on how do you feel about this Senate hearing him plead the fifth 111 times, and what do you think about what's going on with Anthony Fauci? Do you believe that this is warranted? Do you believe that there needs to be accountability for what happened during the pandemic, or do you believe that this is a witch hunt? The mic is yours.
Oh, I think as more and more things come out about vaccines and the pandemic, we knew this at the time that when 4 or 5 years removed from the COVID vaccine, we knew that different stuff was going to come out about the vaccines, how, when you use it, what would happen, side effects, what would happen long term, because we know that vaccines, because it was the new vaccine, hadn't been heavily tested, it may affect different people in different ways. I don't think that the government was forthcoming with that knowledge as far as how it could affect certain people and how it could years later still be a hindrance to some people's health. I think that's for sure, because they probably didn't know, because it was an experimental drug in the beginning for the vaccine. So those things I think is true. I will say this though, that vaccine did save a lot of people's lives. We lost a lot of people during COVID, and that was unfortunate. And so the vaccine did save lives. It did help curtail this pandemic that was happening across the world. And so that is a fact as well. But as I said before, there was some things that I don't think the scientists knew. I don't think the Center for Disease Control knew. And I knew that it was going to have an effect later on down the line. There are some people that are still getting over from the COVID vaccine because different people's bodies take things differently. So now the pleading of the fifth, for me, I just think it was really the Republicans came there to hammer him now and to try to have him say some things that they could take further and prosecute. I do believe that. Now, is there things that he may not want to come out? Probably. But I took it as something that, you had a bunch of Republican senators that really wanted to nail him. And he pleaded the fifth, which was his right. I don't really have any trepidation about him pleading the fifth. It's what people do. Does that mean that it's an admission of guilt? A lot of people would think that way. A lot of people would think that way. A lot of people would have liked to have seen him maybe plead the fifth on some things, but at least have some conversation. That really didn't happen. I'm not really, I don't really care either way, to be honest with you. What I do know is the pandemic, we needed something to curtail the deaths that were happening, and that vaccine did help a lot of people. As far as Kyrie Irving goes,
Lee, before we get to Kyrie Irving, because I do want to get to him next, and I want to kind of transition there in a minute because I want to spend a little bit more time on there. I do have a question for you. When you talk about, when you make that point that the vaccine saved lives, how do you verify that? Like, what's your stats behind that? Like, how do we definitively say that somebody taking a vaccine saved their life? Well, because I don't know how you say that, because I know people that were unvaccinated, including myself, who is, alive and well. And look, I caught COVID. I got COVID bad, right? So I do want to be clear here, because, yeah, sure, I do believe that, in my humble opinion, that there was a conspiracy. That I do believe. But there's people that take it to the point of COVID didn't exist. It existed. I got it. And it put me out for 6 days. So that I would draw the line, because I had it, right? And I haven't had a cold or whatever that was, flu, whatever they defined that as bad as I did COVID. I felt like I fell out of the helicopter and I got ran over a train after that immediately. Like, I was down and out. However, based on my views, I didn't take the shot and I'm doing fine. I know mad people that didn't take the shot. They're doing fine. So when you say COVID saved lives, how do we determine that? Like, how is the evidence that it did?
Well, because you got COVID, you are a younger person, right? Body could probably digest the virus more than older people.
I know older people too that didn't take the vaccine.
But you also knew there are also a lot of older people that died from contracting COVID.
COVID, yeah, sure. COVID was a real pandemic, Lee, and it did take lives. But how do we know that the COVID shot, and that's the difference, right? How do we know the shot saved them? We do know COVID killed people, right? We do know that that's a fact. We do know people were sick bad with COVID.
We know the history of pandemics, right? If you don't control a pandemic by either people getting that pandemic and they build up their natural antibodies against the disease, so you build up those natural antibodies and
I agree with that, Lee. There's natural immunity, but they said that natural immunity wasn't a thing, and that goes against everything we knew about.
It wasn't a thing for the masses, Leo. It's not a thing for the masses because it was easily spread. That's why over 3 million people died, whatever the number was. That's why. So you had to. The only way that you can eliminate a disease within a pandemic is for when the masses either get vaccinated or catch the disease and don't die, right? So that's the two can go hand in hand. There are some people that will get COVID and survive. That's very true. That didn't have to take the vaccine. But there are also others who needed that vaccine to help build up their immune system against it to survive. Are you one that says that you don't believe that the vaccine helped people's immune system to?
I think it did the total opposite. I think it did the total opposite when it comes to. I know a lot of women, and I'm not talking about just stuff I read off of social media. That's one thing, right? Because you could go on social media and people could say anything. Obviously, if a lot of people say something, sure, that's one thing. But I know people personally, women that do not have any ovaries anymore ever since taking that COVID shot. But that's neither here or there.
But let me ask you this. Hold on. You just asked me the question, how did I know that? How do you know the COVID shot affected their ovaries?
Well, guess what? Sure enough, happened right after that. I mean, look, I know people that never had any issues, never had any. I'm talking, and when I'm saying these points, I'm not going off of social media and what I hear and all the list of people that came out and said their piece. I'm not even going off of that because I like to go off of network. Who's in my circle that I know something happened to, and I could verify that because anybody can say anything, right? That's how social media is. I know a particular person, and this person is not just a family member that I see at barbecues, right? This is somebody that's close to me that life has not been the same ever since they got vaccinated. Now, maybe that's a coincidence. Maybe that's a coincidence, right? And sure enough, I also find it a coincidence that when people were dying during the pandemic, cancer didn't exist no more. Nothing was cancer. Nothing was natural causes like how it used to be. Everything was COVID. She died from COVID. He died from COVID. That's another thing. Now,
I agree with you. I think those things were
somebody got shot 10 times, and they're gonna call it COVID death.
It was kind of exploited.
It clearly was, and it was a part of the fear mongering campaign. Now, Lee, we can sit here and debate about how we feel about COVID and its origins, and was it a conspiracy or not? Did the vaccine help people or not? And I wanted to get that little dialogue out there, simply because you said that it saved people, and I wanted to, open up that can of worms right there.
Absolutely.
But at the same token, where I want to go was not about pushing my politics to you or you pushing your politics to me. Where I want to transition to was the silence. Whatever you stood on that, I got to call you out. I got to go above my boundaries and limit your freedom of speech. That's what I want to get into, because that's exactly what happened to Kyrie Irving as we transition over there. So, Lee, I want to play a clip. And before I play the Stephen A. clip of him coming out and apologizing to Kyrie Irving, I want to play a clip of Jimmy Kimmel, because we'll see. Let's just play the clip.
A year ago, Dr. Fauci said that if hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy. The poison control.
It's people like this bitch right here that come up on this mic and spew bitch shit, all right, to people And that's dangerous. That's where things got a little bit dicey for me, Lee, because it's one thing to have our views. Again, I think views is something good to have. People may be Christian, people may be Muslim, people may vote Democrat, people may vote Republican, and that's all fine, right? Wherever your religious beliefs are, political beliefs are, you have a right to have that. But when you start saying stuff like that, when you start overstepping your boundaries, saying that you can't get a job if you didn't take the shot, that's where things become more personal to me, and when idiots like this come up and say something like that, that's where dangerous rhetoric is being spewed upon. And I feel like a lot of people, with all that pressure that they was receiving from the media, they caved in. Andrew Wiggins, for a prime example, he didn't want to take the shot. He was away from the Warriors for a long time. Finally, due to financial hardship, he decided to opt in and take the shot, something that he didn't want to do, something that he didn't feel comfortable doing, and he did it at the end of the day because he felt pressured to do so. But that's Andrew Wiggins. That's a guy that still has a lot of money at the end of the day compared to average people who was on their last dollar and had to lose their jobs because you had to be vaccinated and people didn't want to hear their side of the story. So, Lee, I want to get your take on that because I believe that that's where the problem truly is.
Well, again, the misinformation and the lack of education around the vaccine, I think, was more the problem than anything. That was a statement that, certainly I disagree with that. I don't feel, I feel that all people, whether they took the vaccine or not, should have been helped out because it is a public health crisis. And whether you took the vaccine or not, if you're sick and you have a bed and a bed available, you should get it. First come, first serve. So I disagree with Kimball on that one. But I think it was a lot of miseducation around that. But again, during that time, again, it wasn't. We were building a plane and flying it at the same time, Leah. That's the whole thing, And whereas we knew some research about the virus and they had to put this thing together and manufacture this virus, there were always going to be some misconception on it because it wasn't thoroughly tested. Now, again, I took the virus. I have not had any health problems. I took the shot. I have not had one health concern since I took the shot. And I took it multiple times. So just as you can say that a person, and I hate to say it, got ill, sick, have permanent injuries, I have nothing. So I don't know how you look at preconceived conditions and taking the virus. See, there's a lot of different variables that wasn't really explained or really looked at when you're dealing with something like this pandemic. And you're right. Your friend or the person you're talking about probably should have been educated more before they took the virus about their health, their history, all of these things. And so,
I mean, a lot of people didn't have time. And look, I'm not defending those people because, to be honest with you, a part of me look at them like a sellout. The second part of me is like, okay, well, guess what? They did threaten your job and your livelihood. So, yeah, I could kind of understand it from a humane standpoint, too, because I am a type of person that I stand on BI. Okay, but not everybody does. And I have to respect that. Not everybody's going to put on their gladiator cape and go to war and die as a hero. Right? You know what they say about cowards? They die 1,000 deaths, die all the time for a reason because it's hard to be on your toes. So I understand that, right? So I'm not going to look at anybody that went ahead and did what they thought they had to do to feed their families. I just wasn't doing it because at the end of the day, I do believe that one thing that, we are blessed to have is a freedom to pretty much live how we want to live at the same time.
I agree with that.
My part is not really much less the vaccine because things could have been so healthy. I'm not taking a shot. You taking a shot. Let's move on. Let's go about it. But when we start overstepping boundaries, and listen, I'll tell you a prime example. I had a family member, and I don't even want to air it out who it was because Lee, you might look at that. I don't want to throw that narrative out there. And that person looks at this and feels the type of way about it. But this is a close family member to me that didn't want to ride in the same car as me on a road trip. This is somebody that knew me all my life before I was born, all right, and didn't want to ride in the same car as me because guess what? I wasn't falling for the okie doke. Okay, and that's how it got to that point where families were separated.
Can I ask you a question?
By all means.
Now you can decide. I guess I want to ask you, why didn't you want to take the vaccine based off of what verified reason do you feel you wasn't going to take the vaccine?
Well, there's a couple factors that go into that. Number one, I do believe that we will put if what we think about life is real, right? And I don't want to get too deep, so I'm gonna shorten this and then hit some other factors on why I didn't take it. But if everything we believe that we was brought up to know was true about the world and the earth and how it was created, we don't need that. We don't need that. If everything that heals us is natural, then there's things that we shouldn't put unnatural in our bodies. That's what I believe. First step. Now, people would say that, oh, Lil, well, you took certain shots when you were born. Yeah, because
absolutely,
I didn't have a choice.
Absolutely, you did.
Okay, I didn't have a choice. All right, I didn't have a choice. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, at that point, but clearly at my age, I had a choice.
Well, you have a choice. Reason why, what makes it different? You took.
And another reason why I didn't want to take it was there's a lot of factors. Number one was I don't believe that you could come up with a vaccine that quickly and there'd be no side effects to it. That's number two.
That's
and
fair.
Number three,
that's fair.
I believe, based off of what I saw, and this was before the pandemic, all right, I was watching certain things unfold in the world. Matter of fact, Lee, I'm glad you brought up that question because back in 2019, I believe it was February or December, one of those months, but nonetheless, 2019, there was a law that was actually passed that was, it was called the religious exemption form that they dismissed. They passed a law in New York that banned religious exemption forms in 2019. And I felt that, and I was reading upon that. I knew about that because there were people protesting at the Barclays Center about that, about the fact that that was unethical and that was unconstitutional. Because at the end of the day, people have their religious beliefs, which is another factor on why some people didn't want to take the shot because their religious beliefs told them they shouldn't, right? For reasons what I just named in the beginning. And I felt that that was very ironic that that law gets passed and then this happens. Now, Lee, I'm not really a big coincidence guy. I don't believe in coincidences. I never did. I believe that there's things that happen strategically. You know, that's how I always believed it. You know, when you know, the things and I don't want to go too deep, right? I don't want to go too deep because I could be here all day, Lee. I'm not going to put you through that. But that's part of the reasons why I didn't take the shot.
I mean, look, and thank you for saying that. Again, people, it always amazed me when people talked about the vaccine when
and Lee, one more point.
Okay, go ahead.
I just want to be very, very blunt. Very blunt. Okay. More blunt than somebody smoking a blunt right now. Yeah. All right. I just don't trust the government.
There you go. And that's fine. And there you go. And if that's your reason, that's your reason. It always amazed me with people, though, Leo. A person can go to the doctor tomorrow and they prescribe medicine that they take for whatever ailment they have. They don't research the medicine. They don't know the ingredients in the medicine. They don't know what the ingredients can do, but they take it every day. But because people were spreading this about the vaccine, people were losing their minds. See, I'm one, as you know, Leo, I'm a research guy first, right? I'm a research guy. I like to read data, anything that I'm going to do. But people were just willy-nilly. I'm not.
Lee, how do you know if the data that you're reading is true?
Well, you can say that about anything. You can say that about any data. You just have to do your research to the ability that you understand it to make sure that 1 + 1 in your mind equals 2. And if it's equals 4 or 5, then you have to question it. I just know a lot of people that didn't question anything, but just said they don't trust the government. Now, you can say you don't trust the government. That's fine. But for me anyway, I want people to go a little further than that, because that same person will go to the doctor tomorrow and get a prescription for drugs that they pop in their mouths in a minute. It doesn't make any logical sense. It doesn't make logical sense, but people do that. So, I
mean, I think that's part of, and I agree with you. There's definitely people that be quick to put something in their mouth. Pause, right? No diddy. Now, obviously, the same people that ran to Anthony Fauci with their sleeves rolled up, talking about Jeremy, please. It's the same thing. You put trust in people that wear a coat. But the reality is, Lee, and I hope this point don't slip away from me. I really hope it's not, because it's a valid point. But the reality is, when you talk about, here we go, when you talk about medicine, right? Normally, things you have to pay for. Normally, if you got cancer, if your health insurance is not covering that, probably going to die. Normally when you have to get things done, dental work, right? If your insurance don't cover that, you're going to be screwed, right? Normally you have to pay for certain things, chemo, the list goes on. But with this, all of a sudden, everybody cares about everybody. Okay, everything is free. I don't buy that, Lee, because we all know that just like those medicines that you just said that everybody run to take, guess what? They have side effects. They create a new issue. Everything, because it's never meant to make you healthy. It's never meant to cure the issue. It's to create another one. And that's just how everything is. And you know why it's like that, Lee? Because it's money. We live in a country that is a capitalistic country. This country is capitalism at its highest of levels. And they do not care that you are better, because if you're sick and you continue to be sick, they make more money off of you until it's time for you to go bye-bye and go to whoever you're going to or wherever you're going to. So I don't believe, based on those factors that I just alluded to, the way how the world is, the way that, you look at the country and it's a mess, and it's always been a mess, right? That these people will be the same people that care about my health. And if I live tomorrow.
Yeah. Personally. I mean, look, but Leo, that's still, I hear you, but it's still people that, you had a public health crisis, right? And it's affecting not only you, but you affect the next person. It would be different if people could not take the vaccine and be isolated where they wouldn't affect other people from catching COVID. That would be different. But when you go through your day-to-day life and you interact with people, you would spread the virus. So you are affecting other people, right? You're affecting other people by being around them. And now a person could, like you did, keep your hands clean, wear your mask, but not all people do that. So people have to look out for the public health. And the reason it's free is because it's a public health crisis, and the government's supposed to take care of it. That's why we pay taxes. The same way we pay taxes for the police to take care of us, the fire department to take care of us, the public health, they take care of us. So that's why I think that happened that way. But yeah, I get it.
I want to give you another prime example. Well, first of all, too, billionaires, they get more richer, significantly richer after the pandemic, and now we see a widespread economic gap more than ever before. But that's neither here or there. That's the economic ramifications of what this caused. Which, again, that, sucks for whoever's not name is Bill Gates or Elon Musk. But nevertheless, right, and all the mom and pop shops that went to hell and went to shit, because of the pandemic, it's unfortunate. The pandemic was real. That's one thing I would never deny, because, again, I can verify that through my own experience. I had the daggone thing, right? But, Lee, the point that I want to make is that I remember I drove into a Jewish neighborhood in Crown Heights, to be specific. I was with my mom. This was during the pandemic. This was when everybody was 6 feet deep, 6 feet apart, 6 feet. Listen, all that stuff that Anthony Fauci just came out and randomly said, like we didn't have no thing to verify that actually worked, with the mask and everything. We supposed to breathe air, I believe. not stop us from breathing air. But that's neither here nor there. Those are scientific stuff. That's not my lane. Now, I drove into Crown Heights with my mother, and this was a Jewish neighborhood, and nobody was wearing masks in that whole entire community. It was almost like we was living in the pandemic, and they was not. No 6 feet, nothing. It's almost like they knew something that we didn't know. But I'm just saying, I'm just giving you what I see with my own two eyes.
So if you isolate yourself,
because there was no 6 feet, it was no mask.
Yeah, but
they seem to be doing really, really fine.
Yeah, but if you isolate yourself, Lil, a group of people, whether it be 50 or 100, and you don't interact with people outside of that isolation, you can control not getting a pandemic because the people that are there never came in contact with those that had the virus.
So they work with each other. They don't work with black people. They don't work with white people.
I can guarantee you this, and neither one of us, you just drove into the community, but I can almost guarantee you those that branched out, they probably contracted the virus because, look, the 6 feet apart, that's scientific.
Well, Lee, I think the point is going over your head. My point about me saying that was they didn't believe in the pandemic because clearly they didn't. They didn't act like they needed to believe in it.
A lot of people didn't believe in the pandemic, but still got sick. I mean, that does nothing for me because whether they believed in it or not, people still got sick.
I ain't gonna hold you, Lee.
I
follow the Jews. I follow the Jews. If the Jews know something, I'll follow them. Okay. And that is not anti-Semitic. That's me saying, you know what? Wherever they go, I go. Because if they know something, I believe in them that they know what's going on. And that's just what it is.
Yeah, I just don't.
You know what I mean? I believe in the fact that there are a lot of them in hierarchy positions and they know some stuff. And I want to know what they know. So
you're speculating, you're not proving anything. You're speculating. Those are speculations.
No, it could be, that's part speculating, but it's observation too.
Yeah.
But Lee, I do want to get into the Kyrie Irving thing though. Okay. And I want to end off on this angle. And I do want to play the clip of Stephen A. Smith. And then we're going to pick up from that angle to end off this topic. Let's hear from Stephen A. Smith.
All right, let's do it.
Others who had the courage to say, bump that. And one of those people at the forefront was Kyrie Irving. I bring his name up because I had my issues with him from a leadership standpoint, never as a player, because he's sensational. But with him, in terms of leadership, and I didn't look at it as being courageous. I looked at it as being selfish. And I watched Dr. Fauci on Capitol Hill yesterday. And the person I thought about most was Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving stood out in my mind because of the heat that he was taking. And how folks were piling on because that was just the latest transgression in their eyes that he was committing and subjecting the public to.
Lee, the mic is yours. Does the NBA, obviously Stephen A. gave his apology. I do want to know your thoughts on that specifically, and then go a little bit further. Does the NBA owe Kyrie Irving an apology as well?
I think people in the NBA certainly were overboard with how they treated Kyrie Irving. I thought he had a right to make his decision. Now, the NBA, like any other business at that time, were looking at things from a perspective of their product and their masses. It's a private organization, and they did what they thought that they was best for them. But I do think in hindsight now, someone should come out and say that Kyrie Irving should be championed for his leadership, because he never said that people shouldn't take the vaccine. He said it wasn't right for him. You have to respect the man for saying that. He didn't say that the people in the United States or people at the masses shouldn't do it, but he said he was going to practice personal hygiene and do the other things to make sure that he didn't transmit. hey, I can respect him for that. I never was upset at Kyrie. I do think that there's a conversation that Adam Silver should have with Kyrie because he was very vilified during that whole time. And, for Stephen A., look, my question to Stephen A., have you called Kyrie to apologize to him personally? I didn't hear that, Leo. I didn't hear. I called Kyrie, or I tried to get Kyrie's number to call him. It's great to do it on your show because you can grandstand, right? You can say this, that, or the other. First person I thought, but did you call Kyrie? Have you reached out to Kyrie Irving to say these things to him? What do you bet what that answer is, Leo? Have you done it? I don't believe so.
No,
I don't believe so. So those words go on deaf ear with me. The league, Adam Silver, I love the fact that Kyrie has rebranded his image, but that cost Kyrie a lot of money, Leo. And it cost him probably one of his best chances to win multiple NBA titles with Kevin Durant in Brooklyn, because the Nets didn't want to pay him because of that. So he's lost a lot of money. He lost a lot of personal reputation, and he lost just being vilified for a person that he wasn't. His character assassinated. So I do think that Adam Silver should have a public sit down with Kyrie. They should talk about it. They should sort of have some reconciliation about his role in it and how it went down. Like I said, private organizations are going to do what they do, but you don't have to vilify. Let me say this. Bradley Beal didn't take the vaccine, but you never heard his name, and once or twice. And it never was vilified, Leo. There were other players that didn't take it, but he was the poster child. So yeah, I do think similar to Colin Kaepernick. We talked about that as the poster child. I think there is some reconciliation that needs to be done with Kyrie Irving. Stephen A. called a man, and I didn't hear him say. And I believe if they had a talk, Leo, he would have said Kyrie and I talked. And I don't think that's happened. Those are my opinions.
Yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. Now, look, when it comes to Stephen A. and that apology 5 years later, I look at that and look, Stephen A. during that time was getting on. He made it a mission to go out there in certain segments and call out Kyrie Irving personally. Didn't have nothing to do with anything.
Said he should be thrown out the league.
Should be thrown out the league. He was giving him lashes in the media.
Yeah.
Right? So, you can miss me with that. Because at the end of the day, Stephen A., just like everybody else, played themselves. They overstepped their boundaries. Kyrie Irving said, you know what? It's not for me. He didn't come out on social media at that time and denounce all vaccinations.
I agree.
He didn't say nothing. He just said, listen, it's not my thing. Yeah. And the fact that everybody had to kick him when he's down. Yeah. Everybody made about the team. Oh, he's a bad teammate. Just take the shot for your team. No. When I go and get stuff done at the hospital, I'm doing it for myself individually. The team got nothing to do with that. The team got nothing to do with what I put in my body. The same way that people have an issue when it comes to the topic of abortion and what somebody else does with their body, the same way I should have an issue with you telling me what I should do with mine.
I agree.
But again, it's all about the narrative. Everybody want to accept the narrative that they believe, the narrative that the mainstream media push. And when you go against that narrative, when you're indifferent to that narrative, that's where you get 1,000 lashes in the media and you become a problem. Colin Kaepernick, when he took his knee, the league didn't want him. The owners didn't want him. There was only 2 people doing it. Then it became a space. Years later, everybody wanted to take a knee for whatever reason. And that became a trend. You see, this reminds me more of Muhammad Ali. If you ask me, I go a step further. Because, Lee, the point I want to make is that when you stand on BI, when you stand on your sword, especially your personal beliefs, it's not going to be popular when you do it. It wasn't popular when Colin Kaepernick did it. It wasn't popular when Muhammad Ali said, you know what? I'm not going to fight in the Vietnam War. Let's not forget that in the mainstream, he was a marked man. He faced public hostility. People thought he was unpatriotic. He was a coward. He was banned from the sport of boxing for that period of time. Republicans hated him. Democrats hated him. He was a marked man during that time when he did that. Then all of a sudden, when we talk about his greatness, we factor off all the stuff he did off the boxing ring, and that is always mentioned now. Same thing with Kyrie Irving. In the mainstream, in the eyes of everybody, his team didn't like him. You had Bruce Brown on his team. As soon as Kyrie Irving said what he said or did what he didn't do, he came up and he was in commercials. Nobody give a damn about Bruce Brown. He'd never been in another commercial ever since it was a vaccine because they orchestrated that. Nobody cared about no damn Bruce Brown. He hasn't been in a commercial since. But that's what they had a plan. You see a boy Kyrie Irving acting up. How about we make a video from the Brooklyn Nets and you be in it? Like, we give a damn about Bruce Brown. Okay, and yeah, you get your shine. Go after your boy. Give him another lash. Even they got him. I got you too. Okay, that's what it was. So Lee, that's the problem I had. I don't care about what somebody feels about the pandemic and the vaccinations. That's on you. At the end of the day, what you want to put in your body is what you want to put in your body. You believe in it? That's great for you. Yeah. I never had an issue with that. Just like I don't have an issue with people's religion and, their political views. I may disagree. I may debate respectfully, neglectfully. But when it comes to overstepping boundaries, Lee, that's where the issue came up. And when Anthony Fauci gets up there, and this is my conclusion, I'll let you end it here. When Anthony Fauci gets up in front of Congress and he pleads the fifth 111 times, that has to look awkward for somebody that took the shot. Because at the end of the day, why would you need a pardon? A pardon from what? Okay, when Joe Biden left that office and they talked about all the pardons that he had on his way out as Trump came in, Anthony Fauci's name was just shot up there. They read off the list and they threw in Anthony Fauci. And look, Anthony Fauci is to me, in my eyes, he's no more than a doctor than Dr. Dre. Okay, when his name was thrown up there, all right, as somebody that was pardoned, why? Why was he pardoned? Why does somebody that told me how to be safe during the pandemic and had quote unquote my best interests at heart need to be pardoned?
Lil, a lot of the people.
Did Jesus need a pardon, Lee?
A lot of the questioning,
and he saved a lot of lives. Jesus did.
You didn't answer the question whether you thought it was a witch hunt. You asked me that question, but you didn't answer. Did you think it was a witch hunt?
Absolutely not. It's not a witch hunt.
Wow.
Not a witch hunt at all.
Wow.
Okay. And matter of fact, it's a show. That's what I believe. Because guess what? Ain't no justice going to be done. It's a show. It's a show. It's nothing but a show. That's what the Republicans has been on. And look, I'm no Democrat. I'm no Republican. Okay. I hate a lot of what the Democrats stand for when you come to the ballistic stuff, the social stuff. I hate it. But I'm not a Republican either. And the Republican has been a party of all talk, no bark, or all bark, no whatever. You know what I mean? All right, all talk, no bark. They just been showing, oh, this is what happened, right? This is the information that y'all been waiting for. And guess what? No action. They're the party of transparency, but no action behind it. So they're just as worse as the Democrats in my eyes. And that's how I believe it.
I think you can take, when you say 111 times, Lil, it's all in content about questioning when you go through a Senate hearing. It's all context, so you can say 111, you can say 11. It doesn't matter when people have an agenda for what they want to try to get out of you, to have an agenda to possibly hold you, prosecute you. That's not an atmosphere for truth. That's an atmosphere for show. Something I despise. Look, we all want to get to the truth. And if it's a way to get to the truth without people grandstanding, I'm all for it because I think people need to know the truth. But when you just bringing people there to grill and hopefully find something, I ain't with all that. Because I'm about truth. Because truth helps the masses and it helps the poor and it helps the middle class.
I don't know why, Lee, and I don't know why he would have needed a pardon.
I don't.
You still can't tell me why he would need a pardon.
Well,
I
I don't know why does all other people need pardons? Why is a person?
Yeah, but why is a quote unquote doctor?
So
right,
just because you're a doctor don't mean that you wouldn't need a pardon. Because Leo, what you look at is
that's suspect to me.
People can ask you a question, and if you don't answer it the way you answered it 3 years ago, your views may have changed. But if you don't answer it 3 years ago, they might try to hold you in contempt and charge you. So there's a lot of reasons that you take the fifth. Now, you protect yourself from incrimination by doing that, of course. But that whole thing.
You don't need to. If you did what you said that you did, right, and everything that you said was verified, and you did everything by the book, and nothing you did was hostile, or you didn't do anything malicious, or anything. What's the word I'm looking for? There's a word I'm looking for. Whatever. Then you shouldn't need a pardon. But I will say this, and I do want to end the plane here.
Yeah,
when it comes to the NBA, you definitely owe Kyrie Irving an apology, and not only for obviously this situation that obviously definitely impacted his life. It impacted his achievements potentially. The Brooklyn Nets probably could have won something if it wasn't for this situation. This was a nail in the coffin right here. But you also owe Kyrie Irving for diminishing what he can post on social media when y'all came out after he posted that book and y'all suspended him. That's why y'all literally not banned, but y'all literally went against his constitutional rights many of times. And that was just one prime example, but there was many. So yeah, they do need to have a sit down with Kyrie Irving and apologize, just like Stephen A, but this time actually have a conversation and then move on from that. And let's put this behind us. And hopefully we can put this thing behind us as well. And Lee, that wraps up another episode of the Real Lil Show. And Lee, by all means, man, per usual on this show, plug yourself in. How can my listeners listen to your show?
Always listen after the Buzzer Sports Podcast on every Sunday. Look, I enjoy topics. I enjoy discussing these topics. Again, it's not when you discuss topics or you debate topics, it's not I gotcha or you're right, I'm wrong. That's not why anyway, and I believe I can say this about you, Leo, sometimes, that we discuss topics. It's because if you don't talk about things and you just go off of assumptions and you don't have dialogue, lack of knowledge, we will perish. So I enjoy talking about topics. I'll always give my honest opinion, and it may not always agree, but these things must be talked about. So good topic tonight, Leo, and appreciate you having me on the show.
Definitely. And with that being said, Lee, I plead the fifth. Okay, I plead the fifth. I'm gonna plead the fifth all day tomorrow. When my boss asks why I didn't show up to work tomorrow, I plead the fifth.
Sports, politics, conspiracy theories, we are here to give you our unique perspectives on things happening in the world. It's the one and only The Real Lil on The Real Lil Show.